Welcome everybody, welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers. We are learning tonight Leilu Nishmat Yehuda Leib Ben Yitzchak and Miriam Bat Bracha and Rachel Bat Chaya. Okay, so today we're on continuing on the Mashiach topic, and we are going to be discussing. This is really like an introduction to next week's topic, but which will B'ezrat Hashem be the war of Gog Umagog. So this is the title that we're going to, and the topic that we're going to discuss is who is going to be involved in Gog Umagog, and we're also going to speak about subtopics that you have to understand to understand the war of Gog Umagog. So, additionally, when I'm going to be quoting today the psukim, the verses, instead of saying, let's say, Yecheskel chapter 34, verse 32, I'm just going to say Yecheskel 32, 32, or 32, 31, right? So that makes sense. This way we could just, don't have to say chapter and verse every 2 seconds. So the first number is going to be the chapter, the second number is going to be the verse, just because there's a lot of psukim that I want to source everything as much as I possibly could. Okay, so to begin, the war of Gog Umagog. Who is going to be involved in this war? So it's going to be in stages. It's going to first start in a sort of a war between Ishmael and Edom. And we could think of it between the Christians and the Muslims. This is going to be the way that's going to start. Eventually it's going to go, and then they're going to convene, and they're going to go and attack Jerusalem. So it's going to start first against them, then they're going to make peace, and they're going to go against a common enemy, which is unfortunately going to be us. So to understand a few ideas behind this, there is in Yol 4:19, it says like this. It says, Mitzrayim lishmamat yeh ve'edom lemidbar shmamat yeh. Egypt is going to become desolate, and Edom should be like a desert waste. So what it's saying over here, this is referring to what's going to happen afterwards. After Gog and Magog, Egypt is going to be desolate, and Edom is also going to be desolate. It's like a desert. Both of them are going to be like deserts. So what is Egypt over here? Like, Egypt's off the map already for, like 2,000 years. Who knows about Egypt? No one knows about Egypt. When you say Egypt, you think about, the pyramids, and you think about the Muslim Brotherhood, whatever it's called. So, Islam. So what do we care? What's Egypt over here? So it says that Radak on this pasuk, he explains like this. He says Egypt represents Ishmael. So when the Torah, in reference to the end of the day, speaks about Egypt, it's going to be in reference to Ishmael, and Edom is going to be in reference to the Roman kingdom. Now, why is Egypt in reference to Ishmael? In fact, you could pick. There's so many Muslim countries. Why specifically Egypt as it sticks out? And the answer is because Ishmael, when we spoke about this before, when he got married to his first wife, and his father Abraham Avinu came to visit him, and he saw that his first wife was stingy. So what did he do? Divorce, right? And out the window. He divorced her. And then he went, and who did he marry? He married somebody from Hagar's family. Where was Hagar from? She was from Egypt. So his wife, I guess we could say his main wife of his wives, it was Egyptian. So hence Islam, which is also stems from Ishmael, is from when it's referenced to Egypt. As for Edom being the Christians, the Malbim explains on Ovadia 1:1. It says that all those people that eventually accept the Christian, and we spoke about this also previously, all those that eventually accept the Christian religion are being part of Edom. So we see over here that the war is going to be between Islam and Christianity, and at the end, it's going to be very interesting, because at the end, they're not going to be left with anything. And we'll speak about it also. They're going to be complete deserts of places, which is where we're living. So now, there's a Zohar in Parshas Vayera that says like this. That says that Ishmael are going to provoke great wars in the world, and they're going to band together the children of Edom, and they're going to go and they're going to challenge Ishmael. And we see that is happening already in Iraq and Iran and Syria and all these things. They're already going and they're attacking the Islam. And it says like this, something very, very interesting. There's going to be one war in the sea, one war on land, and one in the vicinity of Yerushalayim. Which is something, it's hard to understand that in itself, but hopefully we'll be able to get a better understanding as we go and explain on Gog Umagog. So there's another clarification that we do have to do is something called, there's going to be, it speaks about this in also in verses, the king of the south versus the king of the north. So the king of the south is going to be in reference to Ishmael, and the king of the north, whenever we speak about that's going to be in reference to Edom. Okay. So now that we had those are the basics. Now we have to dig into it and understand what's up. Why is Islam fighting with Christianity? Why do they? I mean, we understand it's always been, never been so peaceful between them. But what is it that at the end of the days that they're going to be fighting for it? So our sages teach us that, and we spoke about this also, Edom, what does Edom represent? We said it represents arrogance. Edom is very orderly. When I say Edom, right, you guys remember that's the Western world. So they're very orderly. What does it mean? They have the ability to take separate parts and fashion them together in order to fulfill a unified purpose. An example for that is technology. That's the way that technology works. You're able to take certain things, you're able to unify them together, and you're able to advance because, due to that. You're able to take different elements, combine them, and create a whole new spectrum of ideas and things that could help you improve your lives, or also unfortunately, for destruction as well. But that is Edom. So Edom has the ability to build. They're able to build, they're able to grow. Where does this go into their character trait? It ends up building up their arrogance. And we know this leads to heresy. And it's something very interesting now, as technology is going more and more, what do we see? That people are becoming more and more heresy. Mm-hmm. So they stop. Why? Because you have answers for everything. Science. Everything is in science. You don't have to deal with anything. You don't have to deal with God. There's no such thing as supernatural. Everything is science. So we see Edom has this, this arrogance that they say, no. We take care of everything. We don't need God. There's no such thing as God. That is Edom. What is Ishmael? What is Islam? Islam is the complete opposite. We know that we spoke about that Ishmael is known as Yado B'Kol V'Yad Kol Bo. His hand is in everybody else's, and everybody else's hand is in him. And we spoke about him. This is a type of personality that wreaks havoc on everybody. Can't control them. You can't look at France, look at Great Britain, look at Germany. They deal whatever they want to deal the way that they want to deal with it, and that's the period that's and you cannot tell them you have to do this way because they're not going to go with that. So they have this freedom that they like to have. But this also goes to more than just the freedom of, having a rulership on top of them. But this is also freedom of their desires. They're able to accomplish any single desire they want. And not only that, they make it a kosher way. And this way, for them, it's absolutely not a problem that they are able to marry multiple women and then beat them and then, hit them and divorce them and whatever it is. It's not a problem because everything is based on whatever they want to do, and that is the right thing. So they have this unbridled lust, and we know that it's a very lustful society as well. So now when you see something over here, we see over here there are two exact opposite. One's orderly, Edom, Christians, those are fashion, everything's exactly the way it's supposed to be. The other one is disorderly. Everything is freedom. So we see over here something very, very important. We dealt with it a little bit more. Ramchal explains like this. He explains that by the war of Gog Umagog, it's going to be the nullification of all forces of evil. And we know before something dies out, it uses all its energy to expand and to light. And we know we gave this example with a candle. You have a candle, right before it goes out, it gives off the biggest light, and then it dies out. So we see over here, we have two opposite forces of evil. And they're both going to be dying out right before the end of days, so they're going to have both this burst of this evil that's going to come out from them, and they're both diametrically opposite each other. So what are they going to do? They're obviously going to start clashing against each other, and hence this is where the war is going to begin, and this is where the war is going to start. Because this one's focused on one thing, this one's focused on another thing, and they're going to clash, and that is going to be at least the beginning of the war of Gog Umagog. Now we can understand something else. Now we can understand that Rabbi Elazar says in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 98b, that says, what is a person want to do if they want to be saved from the sufferings of Mashiach? From the time before Mashiach comes, the Chevle Mashiach, what should he do? Says Rabbi Elazar, says that a person should occupy himself with Torah and good deeds. Torah u'gemilut chasadim. So Torah is learning Torah. Good deeds is just, being a kind person, go and pursuing and doing good for others. Now, why specifically those two are going to be able to go and save you in the end of days? So now listen how beautifully it plugs in. So it explains Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Haver. He says, the Edom, what was Edom? Edom was arrogance. Everything was pride. When you go and you do chesed for somebody else, you're trying to show that what? Like, I care about you. The world is not only about me. It's not everything about me. I care about other people. So you take down the arrogance and you go and you give to other people. So the part of the Gemulus Chasadim, that is taking away the arrogance, a part of Edom that's rising up, that's being that full force right before Mashiach comes. And now you look at the lust, the physical lust that we have with Ishmael. So what happens, we know the Torah says that if, let's say, it says, Barati Yetzirah, I think this is in Kedushin, if I'm not mistaken. Barati Torah Tavlin. I created the evil inclination, but I created the Torah as an antidote. And this is the secret, that if somebody is going to go, and they're aroused with temptation to do something, how to remove that temptation is actually to go and learn Torah. And that reduces the temptation. So we see over here that Ishmael, if you want to get rid of Ishmael, what are you going to do? That you have the Torah. If you want to get rid of Edom, you want to get rid of the arrogance, you do Gemilut Chasadim. That is why these two powerful forces that come at the end of days, in order to get rid of them, you're going to have to do this very simple. Gemilut Chasadim and Torah, because these are the two forces that come out and go in together. So now the prophet Daniel in 12:10 says, I still feel, even though I'm saying it, I still feel it's coming out wrong. I think I have to say chapter 12, verse 10. It just feels weird to me. Okay, so the prophet Daniel says like this. He says, that when the time of the eradication of evil will come into the world, the wicked ones, they're not going to understand the purpose of the whole of the suffering that's going on. And this is very unfortunate because we see this today. There's some people that just they have very, very hard lives. And they're going one after another, and they're not living the most kosher lives. And it's very obvious for people who live, learning the life of Torah. You can see, like, listen, you're suffering because God's sending you messages. Wake up. But some people, it's like, right over the head. No, they will never change the way they are. And this is how it's going to be before the end of time. That the people that are going to be so stuck into the evil that they're not going to get the hint. They're not going to be able to wake up, unfortunately. And they go one after, kept on going, more suffering and more suffering. And the idea for us is that if, God forbid, these things happen, we have to wake up and realize, okay, there's a reason why something's happening. And there's a way to get out of it. And we just spoke about that. The way to get out of it is Torah and good deeds. So now, this is something very interesting. Also, we see we reference a lot when you see, especially when you speak about the current times that we are in, and when you speak about Mashiach, it's very, very often goes back to the fall of the Twin Towers, because that was huge. That was a huge turnaround in history. But it's very interesting. The numerical value of the Twin Towers in Hebrew, it's Migdalei HaTumim, is 589, and it's also the same numerical value of Melchemet Gog Umagog, the War of Gog Umagog. So we see over here, and it did. After that, there was a lot of wars started because of that. We had to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. The world started changing. Instead of everybody having their own lives more or less, all of a sudden America started getting involved in other civilizations that were way far off, third world countries that are spewing hate against the Western society, and you see that there something started brewing then. So you have it's fascinating how, because what are the Islam, they scream out like death to America, death to the West, death to, like without any no embarrassment, no bushot, no nothing, in your face, I'll tell you. And by the way, I'm talking about in America. I'm not talking about something in Afghanistan in a cave. In America, this is what they're chanting. So it's idiotic. So go. No one wants you here. Go back home. Go to your motherland, mothership. So now but we see over here that Ishmael, his arrogance. What was his arrogance? His arrogance was the Twin Towers. Come on, look at this. The financial capital of the world. You're looking at the Manhattan. Every picture we spoke about always had the Twin Towers on it. So you see over here, this is what we boasted about. This is the arrogance that America had. What did Ishmael do? Took those down. Why? Because they're starting to clash against each other. And that's why the fighting, and it's going. And you see how Ishmael, the population is bursting. It's crazy the amount of the way it's going. And we spoke about this, how it's the fastest growing religion. So the idea is that we see this happening before our very eyes. And this is also what it says in Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 12, that Mashiach ben David is not going to become until the arrogant ones from Israel are going to be removed. Because we see the arrogance are going to go down. And one thing after another, and we speak about pride very often. I don't know if you get that. There's one topic that I speak about consistently is pride. We spoke about how bad it is for relationships. One of the worst character traits for a relationship to survive is if one of the partners has a lot of pride. Because they're not going to apologize, they're not going to do anything. Pride is a very, very terrible character trait. And we see before the time of Mashiach comes, the pride is going to go somehow. Somehow it's going to go. The question is how. And also speaking on the Twin Towers, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, chapter 97, verse 1, actually verse 5. It says, Harim kedonag nemasu melefnei Hashem. The mountains melted like wax. What does that mean, melted like wax? And so it's something very interesting. If you look at the way that the Twin Towers fell down, the mountains of the economy, of the New York economy, it literally melted like wax. How wax melts on itself and then it goes down? It literally collapsed upon itself, exactly like mountains melted like wax. Okay, so what happened when you have all these arrogant people? How does God usually take them down? Takes them down hard. For example, Titus. So we know Titus, he destroyed the second temple, and then he went and he was on the ship, and God started making crazy waves, and and Titus is like, of course. You destroyed where? The Egyptians in the ocean. He says, you know what? He's like, you want to fight me, God? Mano a mano, let's do it on land. So God said, fine, you want to do that? That instant, the sea calmed down. It wasn't shaking anymore. The second the Titus stepped foot on the ground, God sent a tiny little gnat, a mosquito, went up his nose and started knacking on his brain. And it started chewing on his brain until he ended up dying. What did he die from? The smallest creature. It says, you think you're so arrogant that you think you're able to do anything? I'm going to send my smallest creature and he's going to destroy you from within. So that's how it's going to end up happening at the end. Arrogant people, always, they're never able to survive. And this says, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, the name Gog? Gog is very similar to Gog. Gog is a roof. What's with the roof? The roof is, it's like you're saying, like, I have power, I have self-confidence, you're able to withstand everything from the outside, because I'm dealing with my roof right here. You don't need God. I have everything over here. So that's why Gog, that arrogance is specifically, his name represents the arrogance, the roof, the fact that he doesn't need God, doesn't need anything above the roof. He needs only whatever is from within. So after Islam and Christianity, Edom and Ishmael, after they are going to go and they're going to fight it out, there's going to be a lot of destruction. And after that, there's going to be like all the nations of the world, the 70 nations of the world, they're going to unite together and they're going to go against Yerushalayim. And it's going to be everybody against Israel. So there is, when in Pesach we say in the Haggadah, we say B'chol dor v'dor omdim aleinu lechalotenu. In every generation, they're going to come and they try to destroy us. But it's very interesting because in every generation when they come to destroy us, they don't all unite together to destroy us. It's usually one country, even some countries could band together and come to destroy us. But there's always something left over. There's always a country, a place left over that we could go escape and have refuge over there. And this is where how you have the Jews constantly moving throughout the history. Right? You have people in Azerbaijan, and you have the people in Bukhara. Is that how it's pronounced? Bukhara? Bukhara. You have people in Bukhara, and then you have people in Moscow, and people in Ukraine. And then you have people completely in America and in different places. And as the places are more hostile towards the Jews, and Syria, there's no more Jews as far as I know can be possibly left over there. So everybody's slowly moving away. But yeah. So you have everybody moving out. But there's always another nation that we could sort of go and find refuge. At the end of the days, it's not going to be that. All the nations of the world are going to come together. They unite together against a Jewish nation. The purpose for this is that God's going to save us from all those nations. So it's going to be bigger miracle. Oh, it's going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool. But yeah, we got to go and explain it. That's going to be more next week on how cool it's going to be. But at the same point in time, we have to make sure that we are on the safe side, and I guess the cool side, not the hot side. So it's something that we need to definitely. And by the way, it's suffering going to be for everybody. So it's not I'm giving too many spoilers. Let's move on. Okay, so now the Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 97b, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring a king as wicked as Haman to make the people do tshuva. There's going to be two paths in order for us to go with this, and we're going to explain this in more depth next week. You could either have a path of nice and easy, or you could have a hard way. Right? You could look at the good cop, bad cop. You have two paths, the two ways to do it. You can either deal with the bad guy, or you can do the bad cop, or you can deal with the good cop. It's going to happen anyway. The question is, how are we going to get there? So if we're not going to do tshuva on our own, God is going to send us a wicked king like Haman to do that. So the question that the Chachamim ask, why specifically Haman? Why not like Titus, Nebuchadnezzar? We have so many. Why not like Hitler? Why specifically Haman? Why specifically did we use the reference to Haman as opposed to anything else? The reason for it being is that, and Rav Moshe Shapiro explains this, the unique aspect of Haman is that Haman had authorization over the entire world. Mihodu ve'ad kush, we say, right, from in the Megillah. So Achashverosh ruled the entire civilized world, and he was going to go and destroy all the Jews in the entire civilized world, which means we had nowhere to escape. We were done. There's no way, we can't say, okay, listen, Europe is on our case now, let's move it to America or to Israel. We couldn't do that back then because America and Israel was all owned and operated and ruled by the same government. So there was nowhere for us to run, to hide. This is what's going to happen at the end of the days. There's going to be nowhere for us to run or hide.
Who could have that power nowadays?
That's very interesting, so we'll find out. So this is also something very interesting when you look at the Gematrias, the numerical value. Edom, numerically, is 51. Ishmael is... This is wrong. I put here 45, but it's not 45. But the numerical value for Edom and Ishmael equal 502. The same numerical value as Aru Haman. Aru Haman is equal to Baruch Mordechai. Cursed as Haman is the same numerical value as Ishmael and Edom together. So the Vilna Gaon, the Chavetz Chaim also brings us that we said this, that the first two world wars was the first part of Gog Umagog. Already started. It's 3 parts of it. Those are the first 2 parts. Oh, maybe we didn't speak about it. The first 2 parts are World War I, World War II. World War III, which is going to be the final war, the Gog Umagog. This is going to be, the Vilna Gaon explains, is that the entire world will suffer during Gog Umagog. It's not going to be isolated in certain areas. It's going to be the entire world, unfortunately. And yeah, we're going to speak about that next week, B'ezras Hashem. Yeah. So where the nations are united, the 70 nations get united together. This brings down in so many places. You look at the Zohar, Arizal, the Ramak, the Medrash, Vayosha, the Medrash, also Tanchuma, all bring down that what's going to happen, that the 70 nations are going to unite together. They unite together, and the Arizal explains that the numerical value of Gog Umagog is 70. Compared to what's Gog Umagog, it's going to be all the 70 nations that you're going to unite together. Corresponding to the 70 nations, they're going to go and they're going to join and fight together against Israel. And Israel is not going to be saved now from just one nation. It's going to be saved from everybody. All the nations of the world are going to be saved. And this is why it's going to be called, that time it's going to be called Hoshana Rabbah. So, there's a very scary thing when Ishmael and Esav are going to be united, and we can see that in our history. That you have when Yaakov Avinu, he went and when did he go and he left the land of Israel for Haran? When Ishmael went and he married into when Esav, when Esav and Ishmael joined forces. When they joined forces, they went and Yaakov decided this is not going to be good, because once they're joining forces, they're going to have a lot of merit on their hands, because they already have some merit. Where their merit? We know that Esav, he lived in the land of Israel and he fulfilled the Kibud Avaim. He honored his parents when Yitzchak went away, so he has that merit. Ishmael has the faith, hospitality, and the Brit Milah, which we spoke about, so they have that merit. Alone, we could deal with them. We could fight. We would be able to survive. But once they're united, that's a problem. That's why Yaakov started like, no, now I have to leave. So we see at the end of the days, it's going to really be the make it or break it. It's going to be the end. It's literally going to be the end of time, because it's not going to be possible to continue without it. So there's also a very interesting idea that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brings down. That he says in the future, all the kings that oppressed us are going to come and they're going to be reincarnated, and they're going to rule, and they're going to come against us, and they're going to fall down hard. Why? What's the purpose of this? Says Rashi in Yechezkel, chapter 38, verse 8. He says the reason is that God is going to take revenge. This is going to be revenge for everybody that went against the Jewish people and caused us persecution and suffering and non-stop. They're going to go down. They're going to go down, and they're going to go down hard in the time of the end of days. So I had somebody. I don't know if I should tell you who it was. It rhymes with my brother-in-law, and he once he once told me. He says. He says, like when an atheist comes up to heaven, he says, I want to be there when he sees God. I just want to be in that meeting situation. Be like, as an atheist come up there and be like, oh, huh, oh, all right,
What now?
I guess I was wrong. So he wants to be the guy and be like in your face, like, haha. So this is what's going to happen in the end of days. Not because we're petty and we'll be like, revenge, yes, success at last. I've been dreaming about. That's not going to be our focus. Our focus is not going to be. It's going to. You know how like you have somebody.
People, like it's his creations. Like, wouldn't he feel a little bad about it?
It's part of their tikkun. It's part of their. It's not just for fun. It's not going to what?
Hitler?
I don't know. I hope his name's not going to be Hitler again, but yeah, the same idea, yeah. But you never know. There are people.
No, just like what did his soul go through in order to come back and do all of that?
There are some very, very evil people in the world, and there are some really, really good people in the world. Let's focus on the good. Let's not try to figure out where he went.
Evil though. How does someone become evil?
He has a layer, and he deals with. I don't know.
I never understood why Hashem would even allow someone to become that evil.
Free will. There's free will. Everybody has free will. You have the ability to do everything and anything that you want, which is scary and comforting at the same time. Yeah, and empowering is a better word for it. So, but says the Tanit Ve'Eliyahu, this is what he says that everybody's going to come back, and every nation. This is also how we're going to explain what's going to be with the non-Jews. Every nation that oppressed the Jews, they're going to see the Jewish people's success. They're going to see how the Jews are going to succeed at the end of the days. And by the way, thank you. When I heard about this beforehand, I was like, come on, I don't, until I saw it inside. Thank you. And when I saw it inside, I'm like, okay, that's it. Now it's sourced. Now it's legit. Tanit Ve'Eliyahu. So you see over here that it's going to be something that is everybody that oppressed us, everybody that caused us problems and hatred, and caused the dirty Jews to do nothing, a bunch of who knows what scumbags. They're going to come back. They're going to see our rejoicing. They're going to see our success. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, not us, them. And so this is also what is the non-Jews going to be in the time when Mashiach comes. The non-Jews are the ones that didn't suppress us, the ones that were good non-Jews. They kept the Shev Mitzvahs Ben Enoch. They're going to become the farmers, and these are vineyard, but it's pronounced vine dressers. They're not going to dress vines, but they are going to deal with the vines. This is the idea of what's going to happen at the end of days. And it says that Mitzudat David and Ibn Ezra also say that the battle of the end of days, besides causing the punishment for all the nations that oppress us, it's also going to be a source of eradication of all the Jewish sinners that are going to be in the world. So it's a sort of, think of it like a really massive cleansing process. Like, you do like heavy duty cleaning on the world of all the bad and evil that reigned inside it. So the war that is going to be the Gog Umagog, you think about it, it's going to be a very spiritual style war, which means it's not going to be a war particularly only against the Jewish people. It's going to be a war against God. And you think about it, when you think about it nowadays, you'd be like, no one even speaks to God as if God exists, unfortunately, nowadays. Even religious people will be like, okay, well, there's a God out there, but like, how do you fight a war against God? Like, what do? You shoot arrows, you shoot a missile into space? We know that space is not where God, so what is actually going to happen? So the Chazal tell us that what's going to happen is that, let me explain you how the Medrash Rabbah in Vayikra explains like this. It says, Esav, when he wanted to go and destroy Yaakov Avinu, what did he say? He said, Cain, who went and killed Abel, Hevel, he said, Cain was a fool. Why was he a fool? Because he killed his brother while his father was still alive. Did he not think that his father is going to have another child? He says, what? He was trying to be the only successor, but now his father was able to produce another child, and he did. And that's why. So it says, Esav, I'm not going to be like that. Rather, I'm going to wait. And it says the pasuk in Genesis chapter 27 verse 41 that Esav waited until Yitzchak passed away, until the day of his mourning. He says, now I'm going to go kill Yaakov, because now my father can't have any more children, he says. But the problem is, where was he wrong? He went, and that's why he chased him. But he was wrong. Why? Because Yaakov had many kids by that point in time, and he didn't kill him. No. So this is what Paro, when it comes after him, he's going to say, Esav was a fool. He says, didn't he think that if he would wait until Yitzchak passed away, he knows that Yaakov would have many kids. So you can't kill out the Jewish nation then. You're going to have to, you have to do it. So Paul says, no, what I'm going to do, he says, I'm going to throw every boy into the Nile. That's in Exodus chapter 1 verse 22. Then Haman is going to come and be like, what a fool Paro was. Everyone's coming in, learning from his ancestors, saying, what a fool that person was. Why did Paro says what? He's killing just the men. What about the girls? The girls can't have kids. The girls are the ones going to have kids. The Jewish nation will continue. So what did Haman say? Haman said, I'm going to eradicate everybody. Men, women, and children all in one day. Right, in Esther chapter 3 verse 13. Gog is going to come, he's going to say the same thing. He says, all those people behind me knew nothing. What are they talking about? They're trying to fight a war where they have a patron in heaven, God. He says, rather what I'm going to do is first I'm going to deal with the patron in heaven, the God. I'm going to deal with God. And after I deal with God, then I'm going to be able to go and eradicate all the Jewish nation without any problem. How, that's a question beyond my mental capacities, how he's going to decide to do that. But this is what the Midrash, how the Midrash explains it. So, and we see, yeah. Yeah. So this, and I want to show you the verses of where it's also where you could source these things in the Torah. In Tehillim, chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "Yisiatzvu malchei eretz." The kings of the entire of the land will stand up, and nostu yachad. They will go and they will gather together. And what are they going to come? They're going to come discuss against who? Al Hashem v'al Mashiach. They're going to come and discuss how we're going to deal with God and His Mashiach and the Mashiach. So God is going to say, this is hilarious. You guys are coming to fight against me? And look at what the verse says in Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 13. Hashem kegibo yatzeh Ishmael Haman. It says, you want war? He says, all right, let's do this. Let's take this outside or inside the war. Let's do it. Either way, I got you. And he's going to say, and he says, Hashem will go out like a warrior, like a hero, and he'll go out to fight war against these people. We see this also in Zechariah chapter 14, verse 3. He's going to go forth and he's going to fight against these nations. It's going to be a war. And we're going to see next week, B'ezrat Hashem, the war is going to be mostly fought from God. God is going to deal with these things. Oh, it's miraculous, like crazy. But the same idea is going to be just like we had Paro. Paro said, Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolo, right? In Shemos, Exodus chapter 5, verse 2. It says, who is God that I should listen to him? I don't know this God. Moshe came over to Paro and says, listen, send me out. God, send me the God. Wait, who? God? I don't know this God. The same thing is going to happen in the days. Everyone who's come is going to say, we don't know this God. We're going to fight against this God. And this is what happened in Egypt. He says, oh, you don't know who I am. So God sent them 10 plagues. 10 massive, amazing, awesome, crazy plagues, and to realize and know that not only Hashem created the world, He's constantly overseeing the world, and He's doing everything and anything that happens in this world is only because He does it. So this is what's going to happen only at the end of days. Just like we had the 10 plagues over there, there's going to be 10 plagues that's going to come back in the time of Mashiach. And the prophet, and that now everybody's going to see, and we see over here in Yechezkel, chapter 38, verse 23, what's going to happen after Gog Umagog, after Mashiach. It says, V'yedu ki ani Hashem. Everybody's going to know that I am God. Nobody's going to be able to deny it. In the beginning, they're going to deny it, they're going to fight against it. But at the end, like when like you have these like tough little guys that go into the boxing ring and be like, I'll take you out, and the guy just holds over there and they're trying to like get over there and like as if, like I could do it. And eventually the guy gives you one like, knock in the face and you go flying into, to the heaven. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, listen, I can't deal with it. At the same time, they're going to come up with arrogance, thinking that they could accomplish everything, and they're going to be brought down to their knees. And they will all realize that God is one. So, and we said also earlier that Edom, and I'm not going to go through all the verses because it's getting a little bit late, but Edom, if you want to look it up, it's in Yeshayahu chapter 34, speaks about what's going to happen with Edom. What's going to happen with Edom? It's going to be, it's ridiculous over there because it says it's going to be a waste. It's going to be like no man's land. Not only that, its palaces will grow thorns. And even more, there's going to be a demon, and it says over here the name, that's because she's going to find her resting place in those lands. Why specifically? What does it mean, a demon that's finding a resting place over there? The answer is because demons usually don't inhabit places where humans are. So there's going to be so desolate that demons are going to be able to go and rest over there.
Is it America? You're talking about America?
Edom is all the, yeah.
Just talking about America though, right?
Too, no?
Yeah. So, and that's going to be not only for Edom, that's going to be also for Egypt. We said Ishmael, Egypt, it says in Yoel, chapter 4, verse 19, we said Egypt shall become desolate, and Edom will also become like a desert waste. Okay. So now, getting scared? Good.
A little bit,
Good.
but I've always been scared.
Oh, yeah. And wait till next week. That's where it's going to come. That's where it's going to get.
So excited.
So now this is now we have to go into a little bit in the last few minutes that we have to try to understand with the whole idea with suffering. We know there's going to be a tremendous amount of suffering in the end of the days for everybody. It's not, even though it's going to be cool afterwards, it's going to be a very, very hard time. We know the Gemara says that, the Rabbi says, woe to, like they don't even want to be in the time of the Mashiach because it's going to be so scary and so dangerous and so much suffering that's going to be going on. So why is it that there is suffering that comes up? Says the Gemara, says that pasuk, in Devarim, chapter 31, verse 29, that you should know that the evil will befall you on the end of days because you did evil towards Hashem. So the only reason why bad things happen, and we're going to speak about it, is because something went wrong, and this is some sort of a fixing process. And we know that when the time of Mashiach comes, it's not only going to be a fixing process for the non-Jews, it's also going to be a fixing process, unfortunately, for the Jews. They're going to go through a lot of suffering. Now, why? Why do we need to go through a lot of suffering? So we know that, number one, is there's the Gemara in Bachot says that you could go for it for two reasons. Number one, it should be either to erase all your sins, that you go suffering and it cleanses you, like a dry cleaning. Number two, it also corrects any person's transgression, because if someone does something wrong, and they keep on doing something wrong, and they start getting diseases, they start realizing, okay, maybe I should stop doing it. I'm particularly speaking about one thing. When some people are promiscuous, there are certain diseases that come along with that. So that they should wake up and realize, okay, maybe, unfortunately now, what do you have all these, the wicked people? No, it's because you don't use protection, you have to be careful, this and that. No. You have to stop doing what you're doing, and that's why you have to do that. Not the other way around. So, the Maral says that, when somebody goes and somebody does a mitzvah, so he brings his soul and his body closer together, which means bringing himself closer together to God. When someone does a sin, he separates it. The suffering comes in and sort of fixes that separation that you did. It sort of brings it together. And the idea is very, very simple. If you just look through statistics in history, there are more people religious where they're not as successful as the successful people. The successful people and the people that usually deal with like religion and they're very devout. I'm talking about like Christians, Muslims, all those people are usually people from the third world, or they're going through a lot of problems in life, and which means is they're not so like devoutly believing in it. They just see it as a way out, and it helps them to cope. So, and that's why they deal with that, because suffering and hardship brings you closer to God. So now, this is why the wicked people suffer. Why do the righteous people suffer? We know righteous people suffer. That is a very famous question. How come good things happen? How come bad things happen to good people? Very famous question. So, I'll give you two answers for this. And we spoke about this in depth in the class we did a while ago on suffering. The Jewish people, we are all united. We're all considered one. Which means is that if one person does something bad, it affects us. If one person does something good, it affects us also. So with a righteous person, what happens is if let's say he has to go through suffering, he could even go through suffering for the other people. And we know this, that there's sometimes the righteous people die a little bit before their time, whatever it is. Why? To prevent tragedies from happening to the world. Right? We brought this up once with the Baba Sali, where he came to, I think it was Mordechai Eliyahu, where he said, either this is going to happen or this is going to happen, and he chose that he's going to come up as a sacrifice for this. And this is not, you don't commit suicide for this thing, but this is where God takes you. Now, you would think, like, what is this? Is this person so righteous? But don't worry about it. In the next world, this person is getting reward for the entire, as if he fixed the entire world. Because of that, the world was able to endure and it was able to continue. So, because we're all united, their suffering could be because something that was going on your friend, on your family, on somebody else, because of some association that you had. Number two, we know that, from Kabbalah, that the whole purpose of reincarnation, why we come here again, is to fix something. It's not because like, oh well, we still have time for Mashiach. You want to come down again? Yeah, let's go. It's like it's not. It's you're doing it to fix something. You either messed up something in previously. Most likely, we've all messed up something previously, and we're coming back here again to fix it. So, how is this fixing is accomplished? Either it's going to be through self-improvement or through suffering. The question is, how do you want to go through it? You want to go through your self-improvement, or you want to go through your suffering. But one way or another, by hook or by crook, it's going to be fixed. So this is for us to deal with and wake up. This is why, the Arizal says that in the time before Mashiach comes, all the nations, all the souls that were ever created, they're going to be coming back down now. And they come, and it's interesting because you look at how the population just spread out, because there's so many people like coming here. We have like there's only a certain amount of time before Mashiach comes. Everybody's gonna it's like right before closing, and you're shopping, so you're going in there, and you're not sure if you like it. Oh, forget it. What's the return policy? You just grab everything. Let's go. And you go over there, and why? Because the store is closing, the world is closing, and it's time to fix it. So we're just everything is going so fast now. Everything is going crazy. So it's going to be that all souls are going to be complete at that point in time. From Adam until the generation that we are today, everything is going to get fixed. Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman says this in the name of the Chavetz Chaim, that when Mashiach comes, it's going to be in a state of completeness. And he brings something fascinating. He says, are you guys familiar with the idea of cantonist? The cantonist. I'm saying it in Russian accent, you understand? I even asked to make sure how to say it in Russian. In English, it's cantonist, but it's cantonist, in our... or cantonist, in Russian. So cantonist this was a decree in it was like a while back in 1827, that the Jewish children were kidnapped and they were served as soldiers in the Tsar's army, in the Russian army for 25 years. Oh yeah, so you guys know, just didn't know cantonist. Well, now you know. So if you learn one thing, so if you learn one thing today, you learn cantonist. Okay, so it's just a fun word to say. I'm sorry. So the says the Chavetz Chaim, these kids got taken away or were very young. Don't know that most of them don't even know that they were Jewish. Who knows where they are now? What were their souls? The Chavetz Chaim says those souls they came as a reincarnation. That they were originally in the time of the first Bet HaMikdash, in the first temple, and they worshipped a certain idol called Baal. And they came back then to do a tikkun, and that's why they went to where they had to go. So everything you see that goes on in the world, you see, and this is where we can begin to understand a glimpse of the Holocaust, where everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens for no reason, and everything is going in. Everything is getting fixed over here. There's going to be a tikkunim that is going on over here. So and we have to, even though it's difficult at these times, is through suffering, it's very imperative that we understand where it's coming from. You go to a doctor, and the doctor says, unfortunately, you're not feeling well. The doctor says, okay, listen, you have to take this medicine. Oh, but it's so disgusting. It's like you open up the bottle and everybody has to leave the room or they pass out. It's like that bad. Even when you close your nose, it's still terrible. The doctor says, listen, you got to take it, otherwise it's not going to be good for you. So you're going to take it. You're going to be angry at the doctor and be like, I can't believe this doctor gave this. He's like, no, he cares about you and his license and his money, but he cares also probably, hopefully about you. So he's giving you the medicine so that you can be better. God is the ultimate doctor, the ultimate soul doctor and the physical doctor. But he knows what you need and what you're lacking. So he's giving you whatever you need to do to get better, spiritually speaking. So he's sending us all these things, all these wake-up calls. And we have to realize there's two paths that we could go. We could stand in front. Either we're going to take the medicine, or there's a different option. You go to the doctor and say, listen, either you're going to take this terrible medicine, you have to go through chemo and terrible thing, or you're going to go and you have to, watch what you eat. Be careful what you eat. So, come on, either go through chemo or be careful what you eat. I don't know if this is true. I saw this. But if it is true, it's ridiculous. There was a certain doctor, a very, very wealthy doctor. It's just popped in my head, so I'm free tidbit of information. That there was a doctor that was given 3 months left to live. And he, for stage 4 metastasized cancer of, I think it was the bones. I don't know what so some sort of advanced stage, if I'm not mistaken. And everyone told him 3 months left to live. And then he went and he spoke to some, so he had money and he was looking for all other possible options. And someone told him, he found up some sort of research to do something called, I think it's pronounced a ketonic diet, which means it's sort of like Atkins, ketones. Yeah. So, and I may be presenting this information wrong because I'm doing it from memory, and I saw this a few days ago. But what happened is that he went and the way that he explains it is that cancer cells, the way that they are able to survive is through glucose. And if you're eating, so starches, so things like that. But if see, you didn't have nutritionists today, you have this. So you have So what happens is, but they're able to survive only through glucose, through that type of thing, through that type of nourishment. If you starve it of glucose, they have nowhere to survive. But the regular cells, they're able to do either through glucose or through ketones. So if you have this only protein type of diet, what happens is your cells are surviving, but it's starving the cancer cells. And according to him, he was completely healed from it. I don't know if that's possible. I can't validate its authenticity.
I'm sure it's true.
Yeah?
My next door neighbor said he became
people
like
have
a
done
vegan, completely vegan. And he said his prostate cancer.
He went away. So we live in a place that we're so involved with food. We're so crazy about food. Everything. How many times? What we were going to eat tonight? I don't know. Where did we eat last night? Chinese. We had Chinese and Mexican the night before, and we had this patty. And then so you know what? I go over here. Where you just drive down the street. You know how many restaurants are open? I wouldn't. It's not one in every block. It's one, then a shoe store, then another one, then a bank, then another bank, and then another bank, and then another restaurant. And then another shoe store.
Clearly, money's also there.
Yeah.
Gratification.
It's like So we're everything is fast food, everything. So we're very involved with it, which is possible. That's why we're suffering for what we're suffering. We cause it ourselves. But in any case, you see, there's multiple ways to fix something. So too in the spiritual world, there's multiple ways for you to fix stuff. And the Rabbeinu Yonah says, when these righteous people go through suffering, he says, you know what a character trait of a righteous person is that they're able to sing their praises while they're getting their dues paid up. Even though that they're able to still sing praises to God. That is a character trait of a tzaddik, of a righteous person. The morale explains it also like this. In nature, there is transition periods. So you have between, and every time there's a transition period, there's always involved some sort of suffering and hardships. So he explains it's like, let's say between winter and summer, there's also a transition period. Now, I don't know what he was referring to back then, but the first thing that came to mind when I was reading that, it was allergies. That's like when allergies, like in those in-between stages. I'm not sure what he meant, but it's also when you go from cold to hot, when you jump in all these different things, it weakens you. And he says not only spiritually, but also in the physical aspect. Not only physically, but also in the emotional aspect as well. So he was explaining that it's also in the transition period, whenever you're transitioning something, it's always difficult. There's always some difficulties involved in it. And he says the same thing is when you should transition between childhood to adulthood. That awkward stage where like halfway sentence like that. So that, at least in the guy's side. So it's a very awkward stage. And not only that, they go through a lot of suffering, right? The face is a polka dot to connect the dots situation, and things, so it's a very, very hard and suffering stage. Unfortunately, nowadays we have a different stage of transition, and now it's from adulthood to childhood, where it goes back, otherwise known as middle-age crisis, which also goes through suffering. But you look at it, all transition periods have suffering. Everything has suffering. So too the time before Gog Umagog. Gog Umagog is between the time before Mashiach and the Mashiach. There's going to be a transition period, and that's going to be Gog Umagog, and that's going to be where the suffering is. And of course, we know that the way to get out of it is Torah in Gmilut Chasadim. And the Chafetz Chaim explains this in Avat Chesed. It says, if one occupies himself in Torah and in Chesed, so what's going to happen? He's going to be awakening the divine attribute of mercy. And then when, God forbid, he is in a sticky situation, and he's going to turn to God, so just like he extended his kindness to somebody else, God will extend his kindness to him as well. So, and this is something I have to actually mention, because last week in the class I said if anybody knows a source for which rabbi said, and Baruch Hashem I got tons of emails for the sources, so I want to thank everybody who actually sent it. But I saw that from the Chazon Ish, for example, there was something more recent, and I'm still there's more. I'm probably going to get more emails on this, so I'll probably be able to give you more depth. But the Chazon Ish brought it down. I looked it up also. Someone sent it to me, so thank you very much. That the Chazon Ish brings up that the end of the days. What do we need to work on? We need to work on emunah. We need to work on, because the exile, last exile, is a lack of faith that we have. So now we said about something that you could be saved from the end of days, the war, the terrible war. There's additional thing that the Gemara in Shabbat, page 118, says that you could also be saved from war. And this is something that people, if you never heard this before, it'll be very difficult to understand. And that is very simple. You got to eat 3 meals on Shabbat. 3 meals on Shabbat is going to save you from 3 things. It's going to save you from the Chavlo Shel Mashiach, the suffering of Mashiach. It's going to save you from the judgment of hell, and it's going to save you from the war of Gog Umagog. Eating 3 meals on Shabbat.
Which one corresponds to which and why?
So to go, that's going to be a long time. I have it written down or something. Maybe one time we'll be able to go through that. There is a reason why specifically there's similar words that are being used. Okay. So there's also, and I want to finish with this idea, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that if the Jewish people keep two Shabbatot, Mashiach is going to automatically come.
Together, though.
All the Jews.
All the Jews, yeah, all the Jews.
Just
But
clarify that.
yeah, well, everybody has to think for themselves. If anybody, and try to get other people, obviously, but you shouldn't be like, okay, listen, I'm not going to keep Shabbat, I'm not going to, because somebody else is going to do it. Imagine the kicker, imagine everybody else does it except for you. Like, imagine, everybody else does it, and except for you. And, after they'll be like, it's all your fault, and what the...
It's interesting, because we've had a few Yom Kippurs fall on Shabbat.
Yeah. Oh, it's something very interesting when you speak about Yom Kippur.
This upcoming one is actually.
I know not.
Yeah. It says something very interesting because we know that it's very apropos for the fall of, and Rabbi Goen explains this, that the fall of the victory on the Gog Umagog, when the end of it is going to be in Tishrei, which is the month of Sukkot, right after Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
Right after Gog Umagog?
Yeah. Oh no. Well, I shouldn't say that. We'll speak about that next week.
They say there's
Yeah.
Mashiach will come
Yeah.
2 times.
We're gonna-
It's 2 different ones.
Yeah, we're going to speak about that next week, B'ezras Hashem. Yeah. So. The idea with 2 Shabbatot right by the time of when Mashiach comes is like this, and I've heard this, that the first one, Yom Kippur is called also like a Shabbat. Yom Kippur is also known as a Shabbat. So most people keep Yom Kippur. What happens right after Yom Kippur? There is one more Shabbat, which usually falls on a Chol Hamoed, or it falls on. So you have Yom Kippur, and then you have the next Shabbat. So if they keep those 2, what comes afterwards? Hoshana Rabbah. We said that the end of the day is going to be like Hoshana Rabbah. It's going to be like Hoshana Rabbah. That's where it's going to come. It's more likelihood.
That's right.
And what's going to happen? Also, that's why we know it's a very famous idea, and we'll finish with this thought. Is that when after Mashiach comes, after everyone's going to win, and everyone's going to be like, okay, so I guess Jews, you guys were right, we were wrong. Peace, we were good all along, yeah. So what's going to happen at that point in time? The non-Jews are going to go over to the God and going to be like, listen, now we know that you're right, so give us a mitzvah, we'll do it. And God said, fine, it's going to be Sukkot. So God says, I'll give you a Sukkah. So he's going to go and he's going to give the non-Jews. Yeah, they're going to give the non-Jews the Sukkah. And the Jews are going to be in the Sukkah, and the non-Jews are going to be in Sukkah, and then God's going to make it extremely, extremely hot. It's going to be so hot. And the law is, in the halakha in Sukkah, if you're suffering, you don't have to sit in the Sukkah. So the Jews are going to leave, and the non-Jews are going to leave. But the non-Jews are going to do something very different. As they leave the Sukkah, they kick the Sukkah. What is it? Oh, come on, what's it, the Sukkah over here? And God's going to say, aha, so you see? So he said, I see, you never wanted to do the mitzvah. So the non-Jews are going to be like, what do you mean? The Jews left also. We left all. Everybody leaves because it's terrible. It's suffering. He says, yeah, but the Jews didn't kick it. He says, when a Jew goes and is not able to do a mitzvah, they get reward as if they did it. You know why? Because they want to do it. I wish I could do it. I really want to do it. I just physically can't. So you get reward as if you did it. But this doesn't work like I wish I could keep Shabbat. I just physically can't because my show is on and it's just so hard. That doesn't get. I mean,
Other reasons why people
guys, I gotta smoke, but whatever. So. But the idea is that when it's beyond your capabilities and abilities to do something, and you're not able to do it, but you really want to do it, you get rewarded as if you did it. But the Jews wouldn't kick the Sukkah because we love the Sukkah. We want to do it. We want to do the mitzvah. So we get rewarded as if we did it. But the non-Jews, they go and they kick the Sukkah, which means they don't care about it. They didn't want. It shows their real essence inside. It shows God only goes based on the actions in this world over here. Now, obviously, the thoughts and emotions, everything comes into contact. But over here, God basically proves to them, be like, look, you see, you never wanted to do it. It's all in the mouth. It's all in the talk. Really, you see over here, I showed you, I gave you the ability and you kicked it, which means that you never wanted to do it. And because you never wanted to do it, there's no excuse for you to say, oh, you would have given to us, and we wouldn't have done it. So there's no excuse at the end of the day. So we see over here that we're gonna expand it. This was just an introduction for next week's class. This all was only an introduction for next week's class for the Gog Umagog. But we see over here something very, very important. It's gonna be a very, very hard time. And next week we're gonna speak about it in depth on how it's gonna all go down. And there's ways to get out of it. There's ways to save yourself from it. And the ways that we have to start working on is now. It's Torah and Gemilut Chasidim. We have to get closer to God through Torah and doing deeds of kindness. And we're going to be able to do that, B'ezras Hashem, will not only we be able to be saved from that, but hopefully we'll be able to, by us doing something good, it usually trickles down. That and the idea is like this: if let's say you have one family member starts keeping Shabbat, it usually starts trickling down to other family members slowly. You know why? It usually happens depending on how religious that person becomes. If let's say there's one person become religious in the entire household, if that person really becomes religious, it starts trickling down. Why? Because people start saying, okay, like listen, like they're better people. Like you could actually see somebody who's becoming religious, it's guaranteed. If they really become religious, they're becoming a better person. Guaranteed. And if you guys are not familiar with it, I'm sure that if you know somebody like that, you could tell if somebody's really close to God and really they become a better person. Every aspect in it. So when you're becoming a better person, all of a sudden somebody will be like, well, listen, I want to, that's not so bad, so let me try it out also. So this is B'ezrat Hashem not only going to help us, it's also going to help our families, our friends, our neighbors, and everybody else, B'ezrat Hashem.